Cass Allen today at Play With It, and we're on the dating pool binge. Today, we're talking about compatibility. We talked about chemistry before, all the things that pull you together on a high level. And compatibility is a part of that. Um, Compatibility for me has changed throughout the decades. Compatibility when I was younger was just, our fuck was good. We both were cute. We had the same similar style, when we went out, we looked good together. We both liked to drink or we both liked to smoke. That was pretty much it. I spent a lot of time hanging out with my friends when I was young. So, a girlfriend that a different energy. That was, we spending time with one of your friends, and I was with my friends all the goddamn time, to the point where sometimes it created a problem with my girlfriend. Yeah, now your friends gotta come everywhere. We standing 6 deep everywhere, just walking the earth, and they're like, I can't say to you, like, who are these other five people? And it sometimes worked. If I dated someone who was on the same vibe as the six of us, plus whoever did the dating, we could all make that circle bigger. Compatibility back then was, oh my God, she's cute, pretty much. It wasn't even really a compatibility. Like I said, or either, we both like to go to the movies. It was more about surface stuff, leisure stuff, because so much of my time was occupied by my job and my friends that I was seeking much more than making, let's keep it real. You're looking for some good sex, whatever your preference, and in a good time. So it was easy to always be up in the scene with a woman. It was easy to find a woman. So let's keep it in my surface. Like I said, I would put myself in this stuff to show y'all that shit. I'm a part of Earth. I'm a part of the human race with the rest of y'all. I have experiences too, and I'm not afraid to discuss them. I think the more comfortable we are talking with each other, the more like we can solve some of these hang-ups across all of us. People thinking they're out there on their own with thoughts that nobody ever had, which is normally not even close to true. You just don't know those people with the same thoughts. So I'm going to be a model too, just as giving back and share my connections to these topics. Maybe it'll reach somebody, touch somebody, make somebody laugh. You might even say, fuck her, she's whack, she's crazy. But at least you're using your brain, and that's all I ask. I'm not asking you to agree with anything I say. I'm having fun and I'm using my platform to vent, have a good time, and share with some people. There are people out there I know who are listening, who I know are inside of my head to a degree. They know me. So, those are the things that make me do this. If I reach thousands of people, that's great. If I reach two, that's great too for me. It's about touching. Touch one, you can touch all if we play dominoes. So, y'all, I'm constantly reminding y'all where I'm coming from for the listeners who are just joining us. So y'all know what time it is. This is a non-judgmental space where I simply have all kinds of observations. Some of them are comical and some of them are not. It's about a half an hour long. I do my thing and I have a good time. So we're gonna jump back into that compatibility as it relates to dating. What are you looking for out there? Now that I'm older, my list has changed. There are other things that matter to me, and I'm sure to some of you. So let's go into some of them. Some compatibility is so simple as a voice. Are you compatible with a person's voice first and foremost? On hello, like what's up? I've met people who've said, like she, XYZ, he's all that, but that voice, I can't stand that voice. There's something about that frequency of that sound that just don't hit. So if you on like point, you already there. Like you really probably are not gonna have a good time with this person. I especially when people get mad, as I go through this list, think about compatibility, not just, on the pro of how you're trying to make things happen, but think about when you get mad, how you feel about these same things. I tell people all the time, the same things you're attracted to, when you weaponize those things when you're mad at people, first you're eloquent, you love the way someone speaks, the next minute they talk too much. Y'all know what I'm talking about. First you a great listener, the next minute you're like, do you talk? People switch the pendulum depending on how they feel in the situation. So really think, are you compatible in those areas, or are you just saying this because you're switching your pendulum to accommodate a situation so that you could date said person? Imagine yourself mad when these things are going down, especially when it's the things that you in your head are going, let me try this, or let me try to make this work, I never liked this, and friend once who went to a party and danced with someone and made out with someone, thinking this person was of one gender. And when it was time to like hoochie coochie boochie monkey ass reveal, it was a whole different situation, and fuck said person up, like, said person was all of a sudden like, am I homosexual? Because y'all think so rigidly and you want to box everybody into these stupid ass categories. It's not about being gay or straight. It's simply about who you're attracted to. And when you can own that shit, you'll just stop with all the hangups. But y'all know me, this show is not about that. Maybe someday we'll get back to that, but think about your compatibilities, physically. Is this person your snuggle bunny? Is when this person you hug, do you want somebody when you hug them that you gotta bend down 2 feet? Do you want someone that you gotta reach up, or you want someone picking you up? Like, do you want someone who meets your body hip to hip? You want somebody that hits you lip to lip? I personally enjoy a woman who's shorter than me. I've dated women up to 6 foot, and they're all beautiful. But I always tease them and say, I don't want to be your Chucky, and I don't want to be like bouncing up and down in the windowsill trying to get a look at you. I prefer a woman that I can bend down on, or, if she must eye to eye me, it is what it is, because, physical attraction is what it is. But I advise you with your physical compatibilities out there, if it ain't hitting and they can't be taught, you need to really think about what that means to you. Is your mate, are you compatible insofar as when you look at your mate, you get excited? Does that even matter to you? Some of us want to look at a menu. You want to look at your baby like your baby's a menu. Each body part is a different order. You just browse it, you look over and like, damn, ain't that something? Just makes you excited. Some people don't care. Some people was physically appealing to you, the next person thinks horrendous. So there's no need for me to go into those type of details, because it really is true. To each his own. Your eye sees differently from mine. I've seen people that have said, "Oh my God," like about to fall on the floor and do a roll to get to someone they think is amazing, and I look up and go, "For real?" And vice versa. People I thought that were beautiful, that other people like, you need to strengthen those glasses. So, it's about what is physically compatible for you. That's not for anyone to decide but you. Anybody who's telling you how somebody else looks, hey, that's fucking what you want. You go find your delight. This is mine. Mind your business. I want this pork chop today. You go find your lamb chop. I didn't invite you to eat my meal. I didn't ask you to sit at my dinner table. I didn't offer you anything, but you're sitting here staring at my food, telling me how it tastes. That's what's happening when it comes to stuff like that. I didn't ask you your opinion about how my baby looked. I really don't care as long as I'm attracted to her. If you want to compliment her, fine. You want to not, that's fine too, because I'm probably not paying you much attention. compatibility, let's move on as it relates to core beliefs, as it relates to your ethics. I didn't care about this stuff when I was young. I didn't ask a woman what she was into. I didn't give a shit as long as I could get into you. That's all that mattered. But now those things matter to me. I very much care about the ethics of the type of person that I'm dating. What matters to you? What are your core beliefs? What drives you? What makes you get up? What makes you cry? What do you hate? What do you like? I like to learn a person, like what's your character about? I like to watch people around other people, like especially if you got somebody that's treating you like heaven. I dated a woman once who treated me like royalty, had me sitting up on a throne with a scepter in my hand. I could do no wrong. She would put water at my feet, and this is all figurative, to explain the depth of how she treated me. She treated me like regal energy, that she was like happy to be around, and she wasn't a pawn in no way. She was empress style, and she was looking for her regal partner. She was looking for that one. And we vibed like hell when we first met, even though I had some reservations because she made a lot of money and I didn't make the money she made. So I was already like, yo, I don't think we're going to be compatible in that area. And that's really important. So I was already kind of like backing down some, but I liked her as a person. I liked the way we vibe. We went out one day, baby, baby, baby. She was so disrespectful to everybody in the public. She treated everybody like they were below her. She talked down on people. She talked to people like, you know who I am, bow motherfuckers. And that's when I knew I couldn't date her. No matter how many weeks we had spent together, which we had, you know, being what we were doing, I couldn't date her past that day because I couldn't date a woman of such ethics with that felt that she was above everybody else on this planet, you know. And some people can rock with that. I'm not knocking y'all. I'm talking about compatibility here. This was not compatibility for me. I'm not putting this woman down. I think she had an amazing energy, but we didn't rock when it came to walking down the street. I can't watch a person be treated like they're being devalued or they're less than, or you're here to bow to my feet. Never that from Cass, and y'all know this. I'm a proponent of we all equal on this planet. We just all have different talents, we all have different gifts, but we all have purpose, and we all matter. We all brilliant. We just all have different gifts. None of us are smarter than the other. You're fucking not. We just know different stuff, and when you can appreciate that shit, you humble out, and learn to treat all as your equal. There are things that people do you don't know how to do. Most people know to do something you don't know how to do. All you know how to do is what the fuck you know how to do, right? Which isn't much for all of us. We all got a little area where we know something. That's it. So cut all that shit. It's such a turn on for me personally, as y'all hear. That's why we here, right? To talk that shit. For me, it's a big turn on. Y'all want to keep your asses up in the clouds, enjoy yourselves. You want to see others as a peon, enjoy yourselves. Just know that said person, I'm not with it as a date or as a friendship. So let's move on. Compatibility as it relates to religion. I appreciate the good things that I feel across many religions. I don't tie myself to a denomination. I was baptized in Christianity as a kid, Pentecostal faith, and at 17 years old, I veered away because I had too many unanswered questions. That and then lost its flavor in that way too. So I'm very open, I tell this story to say I'm very open to different religious backgrounds. What matters most to me is that your religious background is producing a person with some good character. I don't care who you call on. I don't care how many times you get down on your knees. I don't care how many times you go to an altar. I don't care how many candles you light. I don't care what you do. As long as your character makes sense, because isn't that what it's all about? I always tell everybody religion only needs one sentence, just one. You don't need all these books. You don't need any of this stuff. You need one sentence. Do good. Two fucking words. It's two fucking words. Do good. That's it. Live your life that way, no matter what your religion, and we all end up in the same place. So isn't that what unity really is about? So, I know some of you out there get really hung up on, this person has to practice what I practice. It's just not for me. So I can't really speak on that in that way because I don't understand it in that way. And like I said, I'm not naive. I've studied many books. I spent a lot of time in church. I went to church every Sunday. I went to Bible school every Sunday. I went to revivals. I sang soprano, so I know what I'm talking about here insofar as I've been there, and it's not for me on that type of level because of the way I view religion. I view it as it should be something that connects us all, and it doesn't do that. There are some religions that I think have a better purpose than others, but we're not here for that today, boys and girls. And, moving on, the same relates to politics. Some people, it's very important to them. I got to date a Republican. I got to date a Democrat. I got to date a liberal, whatever the fuck. At the end of the line, normally when you meet people, none of this shit do you know. All you know is you're attracted. You got chemistry. You hear a voice. You see a booty, and you want it. That's the bottom line. You know nothing about this person. But as you begin to decide that that chemistry is worth, you opening the door, now you come in with this list of things, and that's okay. I'm not saying it's not because I got my list too, you know. But think about the things that are on the list and how they really relate to your life. How important are they? Like I said, there are things on the list that I'm discussing now that I didn't give a fuck about when I was a kid. Some I still don't, as I said. Religion, politics, same thing. I care about how you think from a political standpoint, but not a party standpoint. They're different things to me. I care about your ideology. I care about what you think about humanity. Then what do you think about public administration, public policy? Do you give a fuck about anything around you? Is your life just about you? Do you care about how our state is run, how our country is run? I understand everybody has different levels of involvement too. Some are like heavy activists. I've dated women that were serious activists. Like we went to every march there was within the tri-state area. Well, I'll say all the way to DC and around. We were there, and the mates that have been in all kinds of magazines waving flags and, Angela Davis style stuff. And then I dated people that didn't know shit about their own people, why they were even existing here except for their paychecks. So there are levels to that for me. Again, I'm very open to people and what they're trying to achieve insofar as helping humanity. To me, that's what politics should be about, public administration, not about your political achievements insofar as advancement and taking over shit and your pinky in the brain bullshit. It should be about us. And when I run across people who do care about their community, because politics starts at community, that are interested in what's going on in their neighborhood. I watch out for these things because it's a part and a core part of people's character. Like, do the things around you matter? Do the people around you matter? As I was talking about the ethics, it's not just about do I matter to you? It's what else matters to you. I speak of personality as well. Compatibility with a person's personality. Do they soothe you or do they rile you? What do you feel when you're in this person's presence? Does it feel exciting or do you get agitated? Things about this person unnerve you. Are you willing to let those things slide? Is it even worth it? Move on to hygiene. When you're in someone's presence, y'all already know. I'm not going into details of this. How do you feel? The smells that are emitted from that person's body. Is that your balm, or do you fucking want to just take them and wrap them in some ran wrap and throw them in a tub? What makes your nose happy? What makes your eyes happy? Is this person coated in clay because they don't, you know, clean up? Like it's some of us think all these things could be wrong and we can clean it up. That's not always true. Sometimes people are who they are, or they're only who they are in your presence. And do you have to clean this person up every day? You know, think about these things. There's the vibe and the frequency that you're getting from this person for you. Is this voice appealing to you? Are you visually excited? Do the core beliefs of this person, pass your barometer? How important is religion? Are politics at play in this relationship? How are your personalities jiving with each other? What aromas are exciting you or either repelling you? What is the type of cleanliness in this person's environment? If you're dating someone and they invite you over, are you happy with what you see in this person's home? The smells, the visuals, who's messy, who's not, these things you see on site when you get laid and you just push through the fucking dirty laundry and knock shit over to get on the bed to get fucked. Like, if y'all decide to get together, is this the type of stuff you want? You okay with your clean, perfect house becoming this? Because more than not, the dirtier person leaves a mark on the cleaner person because the cleaner person has no marks to remove. So think about these things. Are you willing to become this person's Hazel? Because obviously, look at their environment. This is not something this person does. Are you compatible in that way, or do you need to keep separate apartments, or do you need to live above this person because you need to be closer, but you can't be in there? These things matter. Ass. Sometimes monkey ass will make you do stupid stuff. That's the bottom line. Is this person noisy? When you're in this visiting this person that you're dating, is their house just chaotic and noisy? Is your house calm? Are you willing to trade off your noise? Does this person need noise at night? Do you need quiet? Why you monkey ass? And you got to think about these things if you're planning to take that monkey ass to some type of longevity. What types of things are compatible in your relationship with this person? Like, is there enough in common? I like to play with that 80-20 number just because it's fun and easy. Do you have 80% in common, or what percentage do you have in common? Is it enough? Does it outweigh the stuff you don't have in common? Is it enough for longevity? And as I always say, everybody's not looking to date to find a mate forever. Some people just want to have a good time. Maybe you only need a 50-50 because you only there at 10. Think about these things. It all comes back to what are you willing to risk? What are you willing to give up? What do you feel is important to you? What are your priorities? What do you need in a relationship? If you had to make a top 10 list, because some of y'all like to make a top 50 fucking list, that's why you still have a small dating pool. That's another show too, them long fucking lists, which I have discussed in prior radio podcasts. Some of y'all make lists so damn long, y'all don't even remember what's on the list. That's when you know you in a small dating pool. You got to think about what's really important when it comes to compatibility. Do you need somebody to hug you at night? You got to ask people this shit. Some people don't like to be touched. Some people be like, get the fuck off of me, and you a snuggle bunny. That's not gonna work. You already know this is not gonna work. You like to walk around the house naked. Your mate is like, hell no, put your clothes on. This is not gonna work. I had a friend once, a friend, who got into a huge quarrel with said mate over some butter because one wanted the butter with a glass on top and one didn't care. And baby, the fucking things that y'all don't even realize y'all will kill over. Think about that list. What are your pet peeves? What are the things that piss you off the most? That's how you find the priorities. That's how you find the things that you need to find people who don't do this shit. That's your compatibility list right there. So to wrap this up, y'all know what to do. As you're dating, I've given you, okay, I like to play with English sometimes, but I realize some of you out there are very technical and y'all will think a motherfucker doesn't know how to speak English, which is why I corrected that just for y'all. But I'm not always going to do that. I can sit here and be a stuffed ass and make sure I enunciate every word perfectly for that particular party, but that's not who I'm speaking to. This is a vet platform. We're having fun and we're getting loose on words too. So anybody out there with the ooty booties up your ass who wants to correct everything, we might have a show just for y'all coming up. Obviously, this is the place where there's no compatibility for you. See, I use it in a sentence. And on that note, y'all know what time it is. We got to get out of here because you know what time it is. You know what time it is. We all got things to do.